As it was introduced, my name is Igor. I'm a manager turned consultant. I was also one of those, fortunate people who were accidental Scrum Masters many years ago, when my manager and his boss went to some conference, probably, or some speech, and they heard about Strum, and that because of Strum, everything is cheaper, faster, and better. And they renamed my position from project manager to Scrum Master, and then I was doing Scrum. So there was lots of adventures. Anyway, 6 years ago, I turned consultant, and I'm going to share some stories from this time. And those won't be like all great success stories, but rather some failures. Why should you even care? I have 3 reasons. Well, hopefully some of those stories may be entertaining. Entertainment is important. Some of them might be therapeutic. It's sometimes nice to hear something that's not a great success story. You know, not every transformation, not every project goes smoothly as LinkedIn experts brag on their profiles. And 3, and this is my main goal, basically, to save you some time and money when or if you decide to hire somebody. And all the stories are real, but some are censored, right? I did my best to hide the identities of my clients. And also, important disclaimer is that I'm not trying to deliver this speech in a way like, hey, I'm this smart guy, but only had a stupid clients. No, these are also our mistakes, and we did our best to learn from them. Hopefully we did. So disclaimers check. I hope you're ready. Let's delve into darkness. We're going to start shallow and then gradually go deeper. Make sure there is desire. Apparently, the seal doesn't have desire. My favorite change management framework, probably some of you heard about it, is APCAR. It's really simple. What this basically is all about is people have to go through a couple of phases in order for the change to be successful. First, there's awareness. Something is about to change. Then, hey, it's actually not that stupid. Desire. Not the knowledge. Show me how can I do something. Ability to allow them to do, maybe give some extra time during the sprint, buy some tools. And then reinforcement to basically make sure that the people will not get back to the old ways when there is some trouble, because there is always trouble with the change. And the question to you, at which stage most of the companies start their change implementation? Not where they should, but where they start. Knowledge. Exactly. There's an announcement like, hey guys, we're implementing the new Jira as of next month. Here are some tutorials we've recorded for you. Please read them or watch the videos by the end of the next week. Will the people watch the videos? It's not really for you yet. For many people, isn't. So there has to be desire. And many years ago, when I had a short period when I was working as a subcontractor for a bigger company, which did training and consulting, I was sent to a client to deliver a certification training. Right, I had 16 people in the room, certification training. So obvious question to them is, hey guys, what are you doing here? Why do you want to get certified? When are you planning to take on the exam? And the answer from the group was 14 out of 16 people told me that they are not planning to get certified. And they are not planning to take the exam. And 2 told me that they might consider it. And of course, the obvious question was, what are you doing here? What do you think it was the answer? What do you think was the answer? Managers send us. This training to this day is easily in top 3 my worst training experiences ever. And I'm not a fan of relieving stress with alcohol, but I have to admit that after the training, I just went to the closest liquor store and bought myself a bottle of whiskey. So like the first lessons learned is for the sake of the livers and maybe other organs of your consultants, make sure there is desire before somebody comes and starts to teach people things. The other interesting thing, and it happens pretty often, maybe the example here, it's not that often, but it's extreme. But people are trying to kill a couple of birds with one stone. And I recall one story when me and my friend, we went to conduct some workshop at the client. It was in the north of Poland, and we clearly stated our requirement regarding the layout of the workshop room. My favorite layout is so-called psychotherapeutical, how to pronounce it? You know what I mean. Half circle, semicircle, without tables. It encourages people basically to talk to each other and share things, and lack of tables makes it more difficult to take out the laptop and check email. It really helps. I was really surprised because I clearly stated this requirement to find that the layout is completely different when I entered the room. There were 4 separate tables, and the people just were sitting there. The other thing that really surprised me was that they totally refused to mix during group trainings, because what I did was like, please count to 4 and then once with once. They said, no, we will not do it. I was like, it didn't take me long to figure out what was the cause. There was a huge conflict going on in a company between 4 main departments, and those 4 main departments were actually sitting at those tables. So there was name calling, there were like sarcastic and snide remarks going on. There was even one shouting match. They didn't start, to fight literally, but I think some fists were itching. So after the first day, the workshop was supposed to take 3 days. I called the CEO of the company to tell her, it's not a good idea to continue. And I started to describe the situation. She wasn't surprised. And she admitted she knew about the conflict, and that was her idea, because she thought maybe if they work together in like a neutral setting in a group, then maybe things will just smooth out. The people will just iron the stuff out between each other. She also decided not to warn me in advance because she didn't think it's relevant to the situation. So she basically tried to kill 2 birds with one stone. So teach people some new skills and then solve the conflict. As a result, she killed none. And the lessons learned for us is, ever since then, we just directly ask every client about the relationships, who's going to be the relationships between them, is there any conflict, all the stuff that might be relevant and that sometimes clients just forget to share with us. The other thing that we ask is the overall level of motivation, because this is the most frequent one. We are sometimes expected to somehow hypnotize the people. And this is, I think, the request that we refuse the most often. People come to us and they say, hey, we have people who are demotivated and the productivity is low, please do something about it. And we are supposed to come and deliver power speech. And this power speech will change everything. Or they will, or they think they will hire us as some interim managers, and we will basically magically solve everything in 1 week or in 3 weeks. And I don't really blame them. Who of you wouldn't like to be able to hire somebody for 3 days, and this person would solve 95% of problems? But if it was the case, I would be rich, and there would be a huge queue to every consultant. I'm gonna share a secret with you. I don't see such queues. And yeah, and this would also be my dream. Let me just. Yeah, this project. Sorry. Yeah, we were super. Oh, bad memories. So it was it was typical agile transformation. Small company, 100 people. We were hired to help the transformation, and it took me, I must admit, a long time. Fortunately, it was a billable time. We could bill the client for that. They paid for this to figure out what the whole transformation was about. Basically, the CEO had his vision. It was already pretty solidified. The vision was clear. And he only needed me to do two things. A, basically depict this vision, draw some diagrams, write some processes, and B, of course, inspire people to believe in this, that this makes sense, so that they will open it, with arms wide. So that they will welcome it with arms wide open. Especially the key people like leadership, tech leaders, architects. Well, I don't have to tell you that it didn't quite work out. Because he basically, what he did was he hired me to do his job. Why it's a bad idea to hire some external person as an interim person, as a change leader to implement the change? Trust and relationships. What happened there? Many people, actually most people, perceived me as some random guy who was getting paid a lot, because people know that consultants are getting paid a lot. And this guy who's getting paid a lot is supposed to shove the CEO's vision into their throats. Of course, it wasn't, very welcome. What is the other reason? Any other ideas? Also, it was not my vision. It wasn't also the vision of the people there. They were not engaged, and I wasn't allowed to engage them into some workshops, into rectifying this vision. The other thing, leading by example. Exactly. The change is difficult, so he's supposed to struggle and show that he's struggling, not delegate it. The other thing, I don't know if it happened for you, for example, when you were changing maybe the company in the course of your career, is that whenever you're entering a new organization, you actually don't know which story to believe. Each department will tell you their version of the story. And unless you work there for like 1 or 2 years, you have no idea who's telling the truth. One department will tell you that, oh my God, they are producing so many bugs. The other department will tell you these are not bugs. This is exactly what was written in a shitty quality spec that you delivered us. And depending on whom you're going to talk to, you're gonna get completely different picture, and you're going to have no idea what is the truth. So we don't have any supernatural powers. We cannot hypnotize people so that they will buy everything, and we don't have also the magic crystal ball that we're gonna rub, and it's gonna tell us this is the truth. The lack of crystal ball is also a problem, that we don't know which topics to avoid. This is a quick, funny story from, actually, I think from the very beginnings of my consultant story. I was invited to an internal meetup of some company. It was, technically, they were not my client. It was for free, for brand awareness, stuff like that. Then came up with the idea that they will create some internal meetup about their new transformation. And the transformation was about transforming from project mindset into product mindset. You know, everybody's now transforming into product mindset. Okay, the topic was interesting. I came up with some presentation with a couple of tips, but I decided to start the presentation with some more like lightweight theme, something a bit funny, a bit optimistic. I wanted to praise the company. So what I said basically in the beginning was, we live in a world of buzzwords. Buzzwords are everywhere. So before every transformation, for instance, from project to product thinking, you have to know what it actually means. Because many companies just send out announcement on Microsoft Teams or something else. Today, as of today, we are product organization and product-focused organization, and they leave the people to figure out what it actually means. I didn't exactly notice this. Nothing on the faces of people, because I was focused on continuing with the presentation. But during the break, people approached me and they told me basically, this is exactly what happened. 4 weeks ago, there was an announcement that we are becoming a product-oriented organization, and no one has any idea what it means. And important caveat is, I'm not implying that this client is stupid. It happens. It's actually probably they fell victim to a cognitive bias called the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is a mechanism that happens whenever you are immersed in some, project, piece of knowledge. They were working on this, probably on this transformation internally in their internal management team for half a year before. So everything that was obvious to them. So when they were preparing this announcement, they skipped the obvious, the stuff that was obvious. For it happens very, very often. Also on your teams, when you're introducing a new team member, and frequently they have no idea during the first project meeting, or during the first planning, they have no idea what all those abbreviations mean. It happened to them. What it learned us. What we learned from this is, ever since then, we are screening every such presentation with the client. We are basically sending them slide deck with some, outline of what we are about to say, and maybe not extremely often, but a couple of times, it really saved us from the disaster. Story number 5. This is the most recent and I guess most painful for me personally, because initially it was extremely interesting project. Initially, we were hired to answer the question why there isn't enough innovation in a company. They had a stable business, but in addition to the whole operations team that was maintaining stable business, they had like a team of 15 people who were supposed to innovate. But for the 2 years, they haven't actually produced anything interesting. And the budget was pretty big. So we did a lot of stuff. Of course, team retrospectives, personality tests. We suspected that maybe people are like too detail oriented there. Maybe there is not enough visionaries, things like that. Well, process analysis, of course, some creative workshops, but all of those tools, techniques, discussions led to basically one conclusion. The reason was a severe case of micromanagement at the C-level, at the very top level. So they were supposed to innovate, but only according to how one VP exactly told them day by day, bullet point by bullet point. We actually came to this conclusion halfway through the project, prepared some very diplomatic diagnosis. The diagnosis was rejected. So we continued with that project, but we didn't really come up with any other diagnosis because that was the reason. What happened was didn't want to face the brutal facts. They weren't probably brave enough to face this diagnosis. I suspect there was like expectation that we're going to come up with another scapegoat that they can blame, and everybody's going to feel great. So you have to be brave. But what about transparency? Actually, the story has a continuation, because in the course of the project, we built a nice relationship with HR manager who was coordinating this whole effort on client's behalf. And 3 or 4 months afterwards, just randomly out of blue, I reached out to her. Hey, maybe we're gonna catch up, just see how things are. I was genuinely curious. I knew we will probably not sell anything to them ever again. And we met, and she told us that not much has changed, and she started to wonder, maybe we're gonna hire 4th company. And I was like, 4th? And only then I learned that we are the 3rd consulting company that they hired to solve the very same project, the very same problem. And of course, the diagnosis of the previous 2 was exactly the same. A severe case of micromanagement. One VP just couldn't let it go. I mean, the case was, it was like about 100 people organization, and I remember the discussion when they told me and you tell me to let go, but yesterday I was checking the contract with one of our vendors, and in this contract there was a clause that could potentially cost us 2,000 zloty, 500 euro. There is 10% chance that we would have to pay that. And I was like, expected value, 500 euro times 10%. So we spent 2 hours of your VP time to save the company 50 euro. And that person didn't see any problem with that. So if we knew it, if they were transparent enough, maybe we would come up with a better solution. Maybe if we knew from the start that that was the diagnosis, maybe we would focus more on convincing them instead of spending a lot of money and a lot of time on diagnosing what was already obvious. Are all the projects with consultants doomed from the beginning? Please say that it's not the case. Any positive experiences on your side? Not really. Excuse me? So I wanted to conclude and also summarize all those things that I said with a simple positive examples, with all those mistakes that I've told you about did not happen. We are basically, and it was not a huge transformation. We are basically hired by, say, semi-sized company to make sure there are 15 improvement initiatives in some strategic areas are going to be set up well, are going to be started well, so they won't be doomed from the beginning. What often happens with the projects, you probably know it even better than me. There is some idea, and before people actually refine the idea, the implementation already started, and then the trouble begins. So we are hired to prevent this problem. There was desire. They wanted it. They knew it's important, so we didn't have to convince anybody that it's important. We could easily move to the knowledge phase, one thing at a time. We didn't have to motivate anybody. We didn't have to solve any conflicts. The group was so-called high potentials. There was no problem with them, right? We weren't expected to manage those people, right? To do follow-ups with them, because we every now and then such requests also happens. Like, and then you're gonna supervise our team. So somebody is not motivated enough to do their job, and then they will magically get motivated because some external person will drop them an email. So we weren't expected to do that. 2 out of those initiatives were a bit weird. They were transparent because I said 15 initiatives. 2 of them sounded really weird, and I normally would be tempted to tell them, say, either refine it, change it, cut the scope, change the scope, or basically cancel it because it's weird. But they told us upfront that those are HQ's ideas, headquarters ideas, and that we should, treat them lightly. I understand that this sometimes happens. It's good that we knew in advance, and the client was genuinely open. They didn't agree with everything. We had lots of, constructive, sometimes heated discussions. They rejected lots of our suggestions, but there was openness, and as a result, the client was happy. We've made an impact, and I didn't have this awkward feeling that I had with those previous projects when I was sending them invoice. Because maybe some of you is also a consultant here, a trainer or something. Sometimes you know that it just failed, and I feel weird then to just, by the way, here's an invoice. So I'd like to because we have still some time, I invite you to ask questions and maybe share some of, say, bad collaborations with consultants on your behalf. That's everything I prepared for today. And fun fact, for those of you who speak Polish, I invite you to the next edition of our survey, What Bothers Leaders, Co gryzie liderów. And actually, fun fact, I've been presenting the result of the previous edition in a Motorola internal meetup, and I was encouraged by Motorola team to do yet another edition. So there it is. And under this link, you are also able to download without giving your email, without giving out anything, the report from the previous version. So this is not about the consultant's work. This is more about what people are complaining from their projects, from their organizations.